This animation was supposed to be short and sweet, a single square on my storyboard, a sunset over the ocean 4 billion years ago. It all started with the sky, and I'm painting it with acrylics.
Do I know how to paint a sunset? No, I do not.
Then and now, our sun's white light was comprised of all the colors. Today, particles in the atmosphere scatter the smallest wavelengths, like the blues and purples, so we see a blue sky and the leftover sunlight as yellow. Clouds of water vapor scatter all the wavelengths equally like prisms, so the light looks white again. But larger particles, like smoke or toxic gases of an ancient Earth, scatter larger wavelengths, so the sky would look more orange and red at all times of day. And because of the curvature of the Earth, you'll see more clouds near the horizon because you're looking through more of the atmosphere. Now that we've got a sunset, we need a sun. My spotlighting headlamp will do the trick. I keep my rig elements in here, and I'll use a kinetic armature rig and helping hand solder station clip to hold it up. Some sponged metallics on the background, and we're ready for the starting scene setup. I want the sun to set slowly in frame. I start with my camera on a tripod head, but lower it to get the right kind of shot for the landscape. I try out the sunset on a glass pane in front of the light, and it looks pretty cute. But I'm not convinced by the movement. The clip is a bit too wiggly, so I add a bit of green stuff epoxy to make it more stable. And of course I have this little bit of extra green stuff, and we've made it into a very well-behaved goose. And as long as we're on a sidetrack, let's take another little detour. I mean, okay, we're missing something, right? You were promised stromatolites. It's 45 hours away, let's go to Western Australia and find some. So when we got there, the boardwalk was still down from a typhoon a few years earlier, which posed a few logistical problems. Okay, so strap in. What's 6 more hours driving to go see some other ones? So finally I got to see my lovely little algal mounds and some other lovely algal wonders in Western Australia. And back home I'm building my very own from polymer clay on tinfoil. They grow in pretty tough environments today because there's fewer things to eat them, but 4 billion years ago was much more chill. Mouths weren't even really a thing yet. I won't wax too poetic here, but these little cyanobacteria are growing all over themselves. I texture them with a needle and use toothbrush. Some are producing oxygen, a rare element that immediately rusts to metal abundant in the surface. I put a little bit of pastel on them to simulate the metals that they're oxygenating out of the ocean and atmosphere. It's called the Great Oxygenation Event, but I mean, it's no big deal. It only paved the way for all future life on Earth. Then I put a little bit of resin on them for the water. I return the sun after having borrowed it for my trip.
Alright, I was really hoping I'd have a winder for this, but I don't.
And have a look at the stromatolites in scene for the first time.
I'm gonna do something really cheeky.
To show the thick toxic atmosphere, I need a color temperature near candlelight. The closest I've got are these IKEA trad-free light bulbs and controllers.
Unfortunately though, if your controller's dead, you can't change the color temperature.
My battery died, and Australia recently passed a new button battery packaging law,
And they've all been on back order.
in the entire country. So I got a battery for my candlelight another way.
It'll be great.
I trace a piece of thick paper under each stromatolite so that I can cut it and glue it to the base.
Product placement. Should eat at some point. I'm busy. In case you're wondering, that is just diffuser cloth. Very fabulous. Just like this. Super good. So pleased.
This way, I can fix them securely and invisibly.
Look at these pretty little things. Aren't they looking nice? Just gotta let them all dry now.
Setting them up takes a little time and concentration. Like a multi-dimensional game of chess. But once I've got them in a nice position,
It's gonna look like this. I like it. I like it. I like it, folks.
I meld them into the scene with some black clay snakes that I
Yes.
texture to match.
Let's try it like that. Ooh, that's looking exciting, isn't it? We're keeping it. Looks not very much from right here, huh? But over there, this is gonna be magic. Okay, so my sunset is gonna come in through here.
I test some waves I designed for a deleted scene in Stars of Stone. It's an easy way for me to see if the movement works. Because designing the movement takes time too.
Here's the thought. I'm gonna have waves that are gonna come up. I wanna have edges of these waves that move up and have like foaminess on them. We'll want to replace those foaminess edges so that it doesn't look like just a static wave moving up, but that it looks kind of dynamic.
I go back to my big roll of plastic. I don't know what kind this is.
I can make another 2 sheets for this black ocean.
And use some silvery paint for the foam and black paint for the majority of the waves. With this stromatolite set up, I cut the waves around the shape of their footprints so the waves look like they crash between them. This will be really cool. I painted on both sides for variation in shine. They take a while to dry.
Coating my entire desk with these things. It'll be alright. We'll get there.
I add tabs to the edge of each wave and number them so I can keep track of which is which. Next, I mark along the scene edges to make sure I don't get lost in space. This way, I can make sure I'm moving the waves the right amount as the sun moves in each frame too. Back then, the ocean was black from the metals, and the tides could be as big as 200 kilometers. I ordered a winder some months ago, but at this point, it hasn't arrived. I animate it several times, learning something on each step of the way. First, the wave movement is bad. It's too dark. On take 5, the rig couldn't hold up the sun when I got to the very bottom, so I had to restart. Take 8, the sun moved sideways. I aborted take 9 early because I didn't like the lighting. From there, I tried many lighting regimes to get the perfect golden spill. But from here, I decided to wait until I got a winder because my patience is not infinite, and this too was a painful way to animate. It arrived! Thank you to my patrons who helped me afford to buy a winder in 2022. And things were going well until right about here where the sun slipped. At this point, 4 hours have passed. The stages of grief aren't exactly linear, but it's obvious enough when it's happening. Nothing happened. I bet if I just do something a little different here. I decide to make the best of this run anyway and take it through to the end to see if there's any other problems that will trip me up in my next run. But really, it's sheer stubbornness talking. Eventually, even I gave up. Up until it went bad, the animation looked pretty good. So I found out what went wrong, and it turns out that one side of the winder bar is wider than the other. So I need to tighten or loosen the winder as I go down the animation. Before I try again, I want to remove as much movement as possible, so I solder on the clip to a screw since the epoxy was a tiny bit wobbly. Then I devise a more stable attachment for the light using a pattern out of paper and some cardboard, and a lot of tape. To make sure the light stays at the same brightness, I also rearrange the room so I can get a battery pack behind and have more room to animate without accidentally nudging the supports. It's not ideal, but it works. I think this is about take 12 for this scene, but really I did lose count and deleted quite a few attempts to make space on my hard drive. This last animation looks like what you just saw, except nothing goes seriously wrong, so we can jump straight to the end. And just in time too, since I really have to start packing up my studio to move. This footage was filmed over the entirety of 2022, with as many ups and downs as the sun itself. So the sun's not quite round, and there's a few other things I'd change, but overall I'm really happy with this scene. It's the last one I'll finish in Australia. I think it's pretty fitting, in a way. Thanks for watching this video, and thanks again to all my patrons for helping me get the winder. You know the drill. Likes, subscribes, bells.
Get out of the frame. Come on. We're running a business here. It's Dramatolite business.
Camera's trying so desperately to compensate. Oh, you're doing great, camera. You're doing wonderfully. Orange. We're gonna get orange here. Have a great day and see you next time.